Hi, good evening. Welcome to Spiritual Alchemy Energy, the podcast with Julianne Guthrie Smolson. Tonight, I have career and life coach, inspirational speaker, holistic counselor, and Reiki practitioner, Fiona Demark with me. Welcome and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
She's in Australia and I'm in Reno. She's a day ahead of us and it's lunchtime there. So, and it's getting evening for us here. There's a couple questions we're going to answer by the end of the podcast. What's Fiona's story? And secondly, what's Fiona's message? So you have a day job outside of helping people, coaching, doing holistic practice and speaking. So you're going to work on a daily basis. And, you know, I don't know if let's make people aware that you have a challenge of being legally blind. And how does that play into, I wouldn't know how to operate, but you've been doing this since birth. So could you, what kind of challenges do you have?
I guess one of the things is obviously the use of a computer. However, as technology develops, there's a lot of assistance and adaptive software and things that are out there. So to do my job, I use what's called a screen reader. So imagine using your computer with no monitor and no mouse, just a keyboard and a little extra headset that reads everything out that's on your screen. And so essentially, if you use your shortcuts to, copy and paste or print, I use one of those for every single function on the processes that I do. So with my work, up until about a year ago, I was working in the call centre, and it's for our Victorian government motor registry. So very, very busy call centre, as you can imagine. And so I probably had up to 10 different computer screens open at any time for, people's licenses and their car registrations and, payment screens, all sorts of bits and pieces. And I used to use a little shortcut to do every single process. So you just sort of learn the process of how to use the computer with the new software when you learn how to use the software to do your new job. Probably does take a little while longer for me to train, but one thing is I do have a really good memory. So that's my day to day.
Oh wow, bless your heart.
And one challenge has been taken out at the moment, because here in Melbourne, I have been working from home since, I think, April last year, so over 18 months now. So instead of having to do the, the public transport journey to work every day, so no commute now except from one room of my house to the other. And so hopefully I'll be able to continue that flexibility and maybe even just eventually return to the office a couple of days a week rather than full time.
Wow. That's incredible. Kudos. I can't imagine. I mean, I just have an adversity to going to work like that anyways. So you work a lot with people, career coaching and life coaching. I have to ask, do you have a heightened bullshit detector when working with clients?
Oh, yes, that is so true. And, because one of the things that I work with specifically quite often is people with disabilities. And so that's one of the things that, they can't pull the poor me card because, I can't work because I've got a disability. And it's like, well, in fact, you know what? You can.
Oh, I love it. I knew that would be a yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
And,
Okay, so
people are so eager to make up an excuse for all the things that they can't do, and it's like, "Okay, well, let's just change the focus on what you can."
right, exactly. So I was just going to go through like everything that you do. Like we'll start with career coaching and actually what does NDIS stand for?
Oh, okay. So that's our National Disability Insurance Scheme. So it's set up a little bit like, uh, it's kind of like a little bit like private health insurance, I guess, but the government pays for it. So if you need a support worker to help you out, or you need assistance to clean your house, for example, because you've got a significant disability, then the government funds for that to happen. And so one of the things that I do is the NDIS coaching, which means that the government will fund for clients to be able to spend some time with me to hopefully sort of get them past where their barriers are keeping them at the moment. So yeah, that's what that's all about.
Do,
So it's
do
only
you
relatively new, I think. Oh, look, maybe it's definitely sort of less than 10 years old, I would say. So it's a
so
relatively new thing.
do you as a provider have to have any certifications or training to be part of to be eligible to accept
Mm.
that type?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's various registration levels, and yeah, obviously you do need to have a qualification. So I've got a social work background; that's my official qualification. So that's what allows me to be able to do that, along with all of the other bits and pieces that I've done along the way. So yeah.
I see. Um, so what does a typical career coaching session look like to a new client with you?
Mhm.
Like,
First thing is to sit down and work out what is their strengths, where they want to go, what they want to do, and how realistic that is with their current qualifications, their current capacity, the availability of those type of jobs. I mean, sometimes people need that instant reality check to go, okay, well, you can't be a rocket scientist if you've never studied any science. Yeah, we have to start somewhere else and work our way up to that. So, yeah, it's identifying where they want to be, and then where the reality of that sits, and then start to focus in on, okay, well, what are the skills that you need to do that? What are the things that you've done in the past that are transferable over to that new thing? Or if it's just that sometimes people are feeling a little bit stuck in the industry that they're in, and they want to achieve more. And so then it's about, okay, well, what do we need to do to get you to the next level? If you want to sort of, promotion or something like that, how we're going to increase your capacity at work to get that recognition so you can go that next step up the ladder.
fantastic. Do you have any testimonials about how you've helped in career coaching?
Um, Just trying to think. Probably the best one was, I had a lady who came to me, and she had quite good qualifications, but had a bit of a setback in terms of a mental health incident
Mm,
that had kind of made her stop working for a little while and kind of just go away and focus on her health. And so she felt that her health had been set up in a position where she could go back to a workplace. She didn't want to work full time. She wanted to do something where wasn't high stress, but something that she actually enjoyed. And so one of the things that she was thinking about was working as an assistant, like a nursing assistant in a medical practice. And
mm,
so we put together a resume and, really highlighted the skills that she had. And then we sat down and sort of worked out, okay, well, where are all the places that you think you would like to work? And yeah, we got her a job at a medical center where she really enjoyed. And I think after about 3 months, she actually stepped up to a higher level position, because once she was in there, she kind of got a mojo back a little bit, I think, and was able to just
Right.
sort of flourish in that role. So that was really amazing.
Awesome. Do you, well, you kind of just told me already. Do you have a certain demographic of people coming to you for career counseling?
It's a bit of a mixture of everyone. As I said, I do have that specialist disability background, and as I said, I can sort of assist people from a bit of a personalized experience as well. And quite often, if you've got a significant thing that is a challenge or a barrier to getting you into the workplace, then sometimes it takes finding the right employer as well. So it's not just a matter of, oh, there's a job application, there's an ad, I can apply for it, just pop in the resume. It is certainly more about tailoring the person's capacity to a specific job. So it might be that you approach a particular type of employer that person has indicated an interest in and say, well, hey, I've got this amazing candidate, and would there be an opportunity for them at your business? And so that's sort of like a
Mhm.
bit of a different angle for people with disabilities
Mm,
versus, I guess, just anybody else who's stuck and doesn't really know where to go. Um, I do deal with people who are completely unemployed and just need a new job. But as a
mm.
general rule, it's more looking at that overall big picture career. So either career progression or, starting off from a perspective of, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I maybe haven't had a job before. I haven't worked for a little while and I need to get it back into it. But there's a significant issue that's creating the difficulty.
Right.
And I
That's
tend to find
awesome.
those people are more motivated because they've got a true desire to get back into work, where someone who, I don't know, you might have worked in retail, for example, and you might not have a job in retail right now because, whatever's happened where you've lost your job. For those people, it's generally easier for them to step back into a new position and they don't get stuck in that long-term unemployed kind of situation where people that have got a more significant barrier often do find that the gap in between their last job and their next job is sometimes more difficult to manage themselves, and that's why they need the additional help.
Right. A little support goes a long ways too.
Mm, mm.
Um, so as far as life coaching, what are the most common themes that come up in life coaching?
Like, it's a bit of everything, like, when the standard thing with life coaching is we break down, someone's lifestyle into 8 main sections, and the most common ones that pop up in terms of coaching usually fall under business and career, relationships, um, finances, what else? Like fun and recreation, so just your capacity to actually be enjoying life.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, all sorts of things. So, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, and sometimes environment. So whether you're happy where you are or whether you need to look at a different location, whether that be for work, home, complete
Hmm.
lifestyle change. So yeah, it's quite broad actually. But yeah, I would say the most common are definitely, to do with career and relationships for sure.
Huh. Interesting. Um, so in your life coaching sessions, do you help your clients find their personal behavioral blind spots to correct them?
Yeah, coaching's really about asking heaps and heaps of questions and getting people to actually really identify what's going on for them and not letting them just answer, I don't know, or give a really big, broad kind of um, answer that doesn't really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on. So it's, and what else? And how does that look? And really like pinpointing in so you're getting getting them to really focus in on what is actually going on. And a lot of the time, people don't even think about the underlying factors. They just go, well, look, this is not working. I know it's not working, but I don't know why. And so to actually get them to really pinpoint what is not working, and then where they want to go and what the goal is to make something change or to make it work, then, that's actually really powerful.
Do you ever dig deeper into maybe the origin of beliefs
Absolutely.
and
That's
where those
generally
come
one of the it's one of the topics I will tend to do. I tend to feel people out a little bit to start off with, just to make sure that I'm not, although I am a qualified counselor, life coaching isn't counseling. So the difference in between life coaching and counseling is life coaching is looking at why you've got the behaviors you do now and the belief systems and whatever's going on now, and then using those things to either say that's working or not working for me. And if it's not working, to drop that, replace it with something better and move forward. Where counseling's more about digging up the weeds in the garden and kind of going, oh, well, what's going on here, and it takes you back into the past and isn't so future focused. And so I kind of really make sure that the stuff that I'm dealing with clients with, although they may sort of mention things that have happened, I try to keep them on a level where they are not dealing with if we say, a 1 out of 10 is a moment in life that has a minimal impact, and a 10 out of 10 is a moment in life that's had a major impact. I generally don't dig with those 10 out of 10 kind of things. I'm more sitting at, maybe a 7 or so. So it's something that's had a significant impact upon your life, that has created the belief systems that you're at. And whether they're good beliefs or non-resourceful beliefs, we don't necessarily go with those 10 out of 10 moments, because the last thing that I want to do is start digging around in somebody's stuff, finish my phone
right?
call with them, and have them go away and fall to pieces afterwards.
Um, so I'm curious, like sometimes I'm do these digging around in some stuff, these belief systems, do you find that they come from childhood?
Generally, yeah. I think, it's our values and our beliefs are set up when we're quite young. And, generally by the time you're a teenager, sounds terrible to think this, but generally your belief systems are pretty much in place. So unless you actually go and really investigate that and look at it and go, okay, well, where did I get that belief system from? And is it actually of any value to me? We just carry them around without even realizing they're just sort of those little things in the back of our head. So a perfect example is, you might have had a teacher say to you when you're at school, you're bad at math. And so for the rest of your life, you carry that around with you. Oh, I can't manage my household finances because I'm bad at math. And that might have been
Hmm.
told to you 20 years ago, but it still sits there with you until you go and you actually look at it and go, oh, well, really? What was the story behind that? Am I really bad at math? What is the evidence? And so to actually then really unpack that and say, okay, well, is it a valid belief or not? And then work with it. So if it is a valid belief and you are bad at math, okay, well, let's work out how I can counteract that bad at math kind of thing. Or
Hmm.
actually, in fact, no, there's plenty of evidence to say that I'm not bad at math. And so then you can let go of that old belief system.
And replace it with a new script. Um,
Absolutely.
do you find that, I mean, right now, this is why I'm asking these questions. I'm examining, um, my book's called The Theory of Eight. And so the theory is that whatever you were doing or acting out or experiencing at the age of 8, because at the age of 8, that's a very significant time in our lives where we are more aware of the world. We're more aware of money. And so with my investigation of myself, I'm finding oh, well, these all came from when I was 8. And I've heard other people like, oh, that's where energy gets stuck, is at that age. And then again at 18. So do you see any kind of pattern of people? I know you said teenagers, but does it go back prior to teenage years?
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it. You pick up things along the way. I mean, you think the most interaction that you have as you're learning is the people that are around you and the situations that you're faced with. And so that becomes part of your personality and your identity because that's what you've experienced in life. And so that formative years of, okay, well, these are the things that I was told and these are the things that my parents believed, or this is the environment that I was brought up in. Yeah, it does have a huge impact.
or just even our own perceptions that we
Mm,
process the wrong way in our head.
yeah, I mean, because that's it. Like, I mean, I think a lot of the time too, those adults that are in our life at that stage, many of them try to protect us from the huge things. And so you might only hear half of something. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I was told a story the other day, and this person's family was like, "Oh, got they only heard bits and pieces of the conversation." And actually, when I think about it, they were only about 8 or 10 or something like that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, I only heard pieces of the conversation, and I suddenly thought that someone was going to die. And they said, I'm not sure whether it was supposed to be me or whether it was supposed to be grandma, but someone was going to die. And they actually sort of, had the sit down family sort of, discussion. And it was nothing to do with that at all. It was, something totally different. But this person had picked up on these parts of conversation and they were convinced that someone was going to die because they'd only sort of half heard bits and pieces. And so, sometimes I think the adults or the situations in our life when we're young, we're tried to be protected from. But in essence, if you do make up your own perception of it, sometimes that perception is completely wrong, and then you're left with this concept of something that actually wasn't even true.
Right. Absolutely. So that's where I'm at in my healing. It's a spider web. So, and here's another one, and I'm sure the audience can identify with self sabotage. So, how are the ways um, that you've seen self sabotage in your counseling?
Oh, the biggest thing is that inner negative self-talk. And you say to somebody, what are you talking to yourself about? And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't talk to myself." Like, "Really?" And it's like, we do all of the time. Like, we literally have like, oh, look, 80,000 thoughts or something a day. And so if a large percentage of that is negative, you got all this negative stuff rolling around in your head. It's just as simple as, you drop something on the ground and go, "Oh, silly me, like I'm always dropping things. I'm so clumsy." Like, you would never even think about saying that to somebody else. "Oh, well, you dropped something. Oh, that's okay. Look, accidents happen." But
Right.
instead, to yourself, you're really, really, sometimes quite cruel and hurtful and harmful with the things that go on in your head. And so to just be really aware of that and go, "Oh, look, a bit of kindness sometimes actually is a good thing." So when you hear yourself with those negative, bad thoughts, to actually acknowledge the fact that, yes, that's there, and be conscious of it, and then replace it with something more positive and learn to be a bit more kind to yourself.
Right? I laugh anymore. It's like, oh my gosh, the sprinklers came on. I'm getting all wet. So I just laugh. um, so, how about self sabotage in relationship to time management in tasking? Does
Oh,
that come up a lot?
It does so often. And like you say to somebody, okay, well, how are you spending your time? Oh, I'm so busy, I don't have any time. Okay, well, now I'm going to actually get you to write down what you do with your time. And oh, well, I sat on the sofa for 3 hours looking on social media. Okay, well, what value did that have? None. And so that's it. Okay, well, do you think you could have got the same benefit from checking social media for 10 minutes? Yes, well, probably. Okay, well, now you've just saved yourself, 2 hours and 50 minutes of your day that now you can do something more resourceful with. And
Right.
the same thing as, I mean, so many of us, and I mean, we live in this society now where we all think, oh, it's cool to just sit down for the whole weekend and, binge watch Netflix. And it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, that might be okay if, it's raining outside and there's nothing else happening and there's no other resourceful way of spending your time. But if that's what you're doing every weekend, instead of going and spending time, you know, socializing with your support network and achieving things, doing some house renovations or working in the garden or whatever it might be that's on the list of things to do. I mean, if you look back and then go, okay, well, I don't get enough time to do all the things that I want to do.
Hmm.
It's really about looking at that way that you're spending your time and whether it's resourceful and providing the value that you actually need it to from life. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes sitting down and watching Netflix and eating ice cream is what you need to
Hmm.
do to get yourself through, yeah? But not all the
Exactly.
time.
Good old Ben and Jerry's. Uh, no, it's Halo
Maybe
Top.
that's what your audience can tell us. What's their favorite ice cream
Ice
flavor
cream.
when they're watching Netflix?
Right. That's a great one. Um, okay. Most of your coaching sessions, um, are there? I know a lot of excuses come up. Um, uh, is it the mindset and getting out of personal limitations in our mind and our own comfort zone?
Yeah,
Is it?
absolutely. Because, so often we just go around on that little hamster wheel of life, running around in the same circles and not actually achieving anything. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I need to actually make a conscious effort to do something different. And look, we're all set up to have a level of fear. Yeah. Like, I mean, it
Mhm.
was it's from our primal instincts to stick with the things that because if you go and stick your nose out somewhere where, it's a new land, you might get something bitten off. But, we're not all gonna get, chased by, saber-toothed tigers or stepped on by dinosaurs these days. So we need to let some of that dissipate a little bit and actually, go outside of your comfort zone a little bit and actually just it doesn't have to be something huge, just something slightly different to what you would normally do. Just
Yeah. Uh,
just push those boundaries a little bit.
yeah, I got my own things going on, but when you do that, you kind of break. I mean, talking on an energetic level, you're you're helping like break that energetic pattern when you do little
Absolutely. And
things
then
like that.
that's right, and you start to build a new pattern and new energy and new momentum taking you towards where you wanna go. And, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. I've actually got a list on my website of, like it's little things
Hmm.
that you can do, and you can kind of tick them off
Right.
over a month. And it might be just, turn the music up and the windows down and have a dance in your car at the traffic lights while you're waiting or while you're stuck in a traffic jam. Little things like that that you normally wouldn't do, but it's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm never gonna see these people again. Let's make this a fun experience rather than being grumpy because we're stuck in the traffic. Let's have some fun with it instead."
Right, right. Absolutely. I love it. I did see that, and I have been sharing your website with people, Fiona Demark.com.au. Um, absolutely. So, what are the most common obstacles and holding back patterns you observe in clients?
Getting stuck on past events and not forgiving yourself or the other things that were
Ooh.
involved in that. So whether that generally that's a huge thing that relates back to relationships and, believing that somebody else made me feel this way. So start rather than taking responsibility for your own thoughts, feelings, and actions, understanding that the situation was what it was. It's your choice to react in the way that you are. And so every time we have an event happen in our lives, we can choose to react in whichever way we want to. And unfortunately, for many people, their go to is to blame other people or just get stuck in poor me and start that little pity party. And it's like, okay, well, you do have a choice. Like, nobody else can make you unhappy. You're the one that's choosing to be unhappy because you're reacting to that particular event in that particular way. So you can choose to make a different decision and react differently and let it go.
Hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, the past is the past. We can't change it. Like, well, in actual fact, I feel like I'm changing the past right now because I'm thinking about what I was doing at 7 o'clock last night. But just go back a few hours. But having said that, I mean, that's the thing is it's gone. Yeah, the event has happened. It is what it is. And so
Mhm.
now you're stuck with working out how you're going to continue to let that relate to the rest of your life.
Okay. And sometimes we have to I don't know if you have some clients that will go to these people that maybe have hurt them, to have discussions with them to work this out in their own way. Or
Yeah, and look, if it's a situation where the person feels that they can go and mend and rebuild bridges, a friendship that was a long-standing friendship that, something got in the way, but you still look back and go, "Oh my gosh, like I still really like that person and let's rebuild our relationship." Then yeah, definitely, encouragement to go back and rebuild that relationship is really important. Sometimes I think, we can't go back and tell those people the things that we need to tell them for whatever reason. They might be, it might not be safe. They might not be around anymore. It might just not be the best decision. And so generally what I will recommend in that circumstance is do some journaling work, write
Mhm.
everything down. I love the whole philosophy of write them a letter,
Mhm.
send the energy out to, the universe to say, this is what I'm now feeling. I release it. I release it from me, and then go and take your piece of paper and drop it in the river, set it on fire. I don't know, whatever you need to do to get it out of your life. And as you get rid of it, let all of that caught up emotion and drama just go away with the piece of paper as it disappears.
Yeah, you might have to write 15 more letters sometimes.
Sometimes.
Do you help? I read a little bit on your website. You help people model types of communication, um, and in order, like, I guess I don't know in what capacity you do this.
Yeah, so effective communication, one of the things is, to really reframe your own way of describing things. So instead of "you are doing this to me," I am feeling when this happens. So really bringing it back to those I statements rather than because if someone comes to you and say, "Julie, you make me blah blah," straight away you're
Hmm.
gonna get your back up a little bit and you're
Hmm.
going to be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, no, I don't." And so you're gonna straight away go defensive, yeah? Where if I come to you and I say, "When this happens, I feel," then you might be like, whoa, okay, well, I never realized that. And so then you're in a position to be able to more have a conversation about something because no one's feeling that they're being attacked and there's no, no defensiveness that's sort of clouding the whole situation. So I think that's one really important thing. Something else is,
Yeah.
just framing things in a positive way. Our brains are really interesting, and this goes back to that little when we're talking about children and the way that your brain forms when you're younger. So what's the thing? If you tell a little child, don't do something, what's the first thing they do? They go and do exactly what you told them not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's generally because we don't hear that don't at the beginning of the sentence. Your brain doesn't need all of that. It's sort of, it gets so much input of information every second that, it would explode if it took attention to everything that happens. So it kind of just drops out the things that it feels that it doesn't need. And so your brain just does go, oh, I don't need that part of that conversation. I just need to hear the other part. So if I say to you, don't think about the pink elephant that's dancing in the street right now and having a party. Right now, you've got a picture of that elephant because your brain never heard the don't. It just automatically goes to the rest of the story. And so if we say, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be sad, I don't want to this, that, whatever, you just get stuck in that creation of those things happening to you. Where if you say, I am good with my finances, or I am enjoying my relationship, or whatever it happens to be, once you reframe things, your brain starts to think about those situations quite differently.
Yeah, rewriting the script. So, what tools and strategies do you commonly use with your clients? Like, maybe
as I said before, lots of questions, getting them to really, dig deep into what's going on, and not letting them just get away with the surface answers. Actually, sort of, digging quite into, okay, let's pinpoint this and actually, get you to really consider why you're doing the things that you're doing and why is it having the ongoing outcome that it is by you doing those things, and then how do we change that. And I always, put the responsibility back on the client. Yeah. It's not about me. This is not my journey. It's their journey. And so they need to be responsible for really tapping into what's going on for them. And if they're not invested in the whole process, then, you're not going to get anything out of it. The more invested you get into doing this whole self work, the more you get out of it.
Absolutely. So in this process, how do you reinforce resilience and confidence in your clients? It's obviously their responsibility, but
And once again, getting them to reflect on circumstances where they've used resilience before. I mean, the thing is we're all going to have bumps in the road. And in actual fact, if we didn't have those bumps in the road, life would be really boring. Yeah. I think we need to have those down times to be able to then really appreciate the good times as well. And so to actually acknowledge what you learn from each challenge that you face, the strengths, the resources that you use to get through those times, and then to then be able to adjust them to match something else along the way.
absolutely, I agree. And it builds momentum the more that happens too.
Absolutely. Because when you know, okay, well, last time something happened and it was a challenge, this is what I did to get out of it. So I'm going to try that again. And if it works this time, great. If it doesn't, then I'll try plan B. But at least you know that you've got those tools and resources there, and you've got that ability to understand that it's a temporary thing. Like, this is not the rest of my life. This is just one moment in the journey. And then to be able to really relate to that and go, okay, well, we need to keep moving forward at some point. When is that a good time? Well, let's make that time right now.
Right. So you help clients with their personal presentation and showing up. What does that look like?
Um, Especially when we go back to, an example would be when we're talking about people with the job coaching, yeah? It's
Mhm.
not just about, like, I mean, you can go and get a job, yeah, but if you don't know how to sustain that job and you don't have all the things that are set up behind it in your lifestyle, then you're not going to succeed. Because if you don't have the ability to know, okay, well, this is how I need to deal with people. This is an appropriate sort of, thing to be wearing to work. This is appropriate behaviors. These are the things that I need to set up in life. Like, if you had a terrible sleeping routine, for example, and you've got an expectation to get up and go to a job all of a sudden, then you really need to think, okay, well, how's my current routine going to match in with that? And if you've been sleeping until 11 o'clock every day and you need to be at work at 8:30 in the morning, then suddenly you really need to take some significant changes in your general lifestyle to be able to support the fact that you're going to be working in that kind of environment. Same thing, to be able to then work out, okay, well, do I have a healthy eating routine? Am I doing other things that I probably shouldn't be doing in
Mhm.
relation to, substance abuse, all sorts of other bits and pieces that are, potentially going to affect my capacity to be able to sustain the things that I want out of life as well. So it's not just looking at that small picture and going, okay, well, this is the goal that I want. It's actually looking at the bigger things and going, okay, well, is there other things that I need to change in my life to make sure that I am successful at that, rather than just looking at that little bit and then it not working out because you haven't seen all of that other stuff. And then that kind of reinforcing that negative, "Oh, I can't do anything. See, look, I failed again," kind of
Mm,
attitude that many people have.
right, right. Rewriting that script,
Mm,
um, and aligning ourselves with what we want. Um,
yeah. 'Cause that's it. So many of us just live on that little, the script that we have been following for so many years, yeah? Like, it's
mm,
just a natural thing. I mean, how many times do you get in your car and you drive to the supermarket or you drive somewhere that you go all the time, and you don't think about how you get there? You just go from one place
mm,
to the other, and you're suddenly there and you're like, "Hmm, okay. I don't know what
mm,
happened along the way. I'm just there now." And
mhm.
that's what happens in our brains. We just follow those same pathways all of the time. So you actually have to teach yourself to be conscious and actually do a detour and actually, take a different journey.
Absolutely. It's kind of where I'm at right now. I did you want to talk about your speaking gigs and how
Yeah.
you help people there?
So essentially, my speaking gigs a lot of the time are just a bit of my personal story. So I actually grew up out in far out back New South Wales, and so very different to growing up as a child with a disability in the city, and so that had its impacts, and I guess although I'm managing the challenges that I face these days with, a pretty good, can-do attitude, it wasn't always the case. And so, those things that I've experienced along the way, I, use as a bit of a story to get people to then reflect on their own lives and where things have happened that have been great, where the things that came along sort of, really did challenge them, and also the things in their lives that have been those moments, sometimes people call them sliding door moments, yeah, where you could have gone one way or the other, and it might have been a person or a particular action or something that really influenced you to make a different decision. And once again, to really look at your life and go, okay, well, this is all a choice. My reactions are a choice, and the way that I deal with the things that I'm presented are a choice. And so, yeah, being able to share my story and influence people into, having that moment of self-reflection to really not just think about me, but to think about how some of the things that I've dealt with actually relate back to themselves is really quite powerful.
Isn't it? Oh. kudos to you for doing that.
And the best thing at the moment is because we're all very familiar with using Zoom and all sorts of things these days. So just because I happen to be on the other side of the world to many people, or in a different state or in a different location, we've got the technology set up to be able to present via all sorts of different formats, which is really amazing. It brings literally the world into my spare room.
Right? Isn't that it's really great. And then, there's pitfalls in it for some people. So that's awesome. I kudos to you for sharing your story. I think those are the personal stories are the most impactful to people because they relate.
So true.
So I want to know about holistic counseling. What is your definition of holistic counseling?
I think it's taking somebody's situation and looking at it from that, like I briefly mentioned before, the big picture perspective, yeah? So it's not just looking at one aspect of someone's life and saying, "Oh gosh, I had a relationship breakdown, for example, I'm going through a divorce." It's not just about that. It's about your whole self. And so, okay, well, what else are you doing to help you cope with this particular situation? And how does that affect the rest of your life? So it's really taking that holistic approach rather than that just one particular topic kind of approach.
Awesome. Awesome. Treating the whole person.
Mm, mm. And treating the whole person might be taking into account, their environment as well. So it might be, okay, well, let's look at where you're at with your other relationships and your household situation, your work situation, your capacity to go outside and do things, like all of these bits and pieces. Like we just sort of often forget that we are part of a bigger picture and a bigger community. And so how much your situation actually relates to that bigger space is really important sometimes.
Absolutely. And if one aspect isn't working right, it impacts the rest of them,
Mhm.
or can.
Absolutely.
Can.
Yeah.
Um, we have about 13 minutes left here. And so I want to know about how you got into um, being a Reiki practitioner.
Oh, really interesting story, actually. I was doing one of my university pracs for my social work degree, and I was working with a lady who we were working on a charity organization for families living with HIV. And we were doing this. She had a home office. And I've suffered from migraine headaches ever since I was a teenager and sort of hit puberty. It's probably all related to hormones and all sorts of bits and pieces. And one day I went to work with this girl and had the worst headache. And she's like, "I've just learnt this new thing. Would you like to try it out?" And I'm like, "Well, you know what? It can't hurt, yeah." And the idea of laying down somewhere where where I can just rest my head sounds amazing. And so, yeah, she did my first ever Reiki treatment on me. And look, I mean, I can't say it was magical and the headache immediately disappeared and everything was fantastic and I was, doing cartwheels afterwards, but it certainly did alleviate, the majority of the symptoms. And so I thought, man, there's something in this. So I went and researched it a little bit. And it turned out that I ended up doing my Reiki 1 and 2 with that same lady. And we're still forever friends, actually. She's even godmother to one of my children. So, yeah, we've always stayed connected ever since, we first ever met, and we've sort of bonded over the alternative therapy stuff as well. And then I did my Reiki Master training through a friend who has now passed away, unfortunately, but lives in the UK. And so, yeah, I think it was really interesting to do the two different perspectives. So to have, two different teachers rather than the same person was really interesting. and just to pick up those different ideas and concepts from somebody else. And look, I've been doing Reiki on and off for, gosh, I think probably 25 years or something like that now. And look, it's one of those things that I can do the full treatment on somebody, or having said that, it's just one of those things that's just in that little toolkit that you carry around with you all of the time. So if someone's a little bit stressed, then you give them a hug and put some of the Reiki vibes in there as well. Or if I'm laying awake at night and my husband's sleeping, and I might just sort of pop my hand on him and give him some extra energy, or put some energy in when I'm patting the cat, or whatever it happens to be. So
Right.
just to share it out a little bit as well. It's just one of those natural things. And especially when my children were young, they're now 18 and 16. But I mean, when they had their little boo-boos when they were little, you'd help that with the Reiki as well. So it's one of those things that just sort of becomes part of life, and you don't even really, I think it's consciously you sort of forget that you're doing it a lot of the time, and you just sort of, it becomes an automatic thing.
Right. Right. Absolutely. We were talking a little bit before the show, and we were talking about the emotional connection to the body. So when you do Reiki, do you generally pick up emotions from people or situations? I mean, you did say that you do get some messages. Do
Yeah,
you, do you
and
find that the pain's connected to the emotion?
generally, yes. And and it's sometimes it's just an understanding or a feeling, or quite often colors as well. So I see a lot of color in somebody, and then they say, yeah, well, I'm really angry, or I'm really scared, or I'm really whatever, and it generally sort of has that color relation to it as well. Or just, I don't know, even strange things like sometimes I've seen like a picture of a dog in my head, and I've gone, look, I don't have any concept of what this is, but I seen a dog. And they're like, okay. And then you explain the dog, and
Okay.
they're like, oh yeah, no, I know that dog. Yes, that's my dog, or that's my friend's dog, or whatever it happens to be. And so it's one of those things that, yeah, you definitely do pick up on the I guess another level of stuff. So it's not just someone's physical pain, like I've got a sore arm. Okay, well, we'll treat your arm, but at the same time, let's be open to the concept of that universal energy, and if that has something else that it needs to sort of do for you, then that will automatically come through. And maybe I don't get the messages all the time, maybe the
Mhm.
person gets the messages sometimes themselves, or
Mhm.
sometimes I think it just does what it needs to do, and if neither of us are able to connect with that message at the time, doesn't necessarily mean that that healing isn't taking place. It's just that it's doing it quietly rather than out loud.
Right. So because you brought up colors and a dog, so how do you know what colors are?
Interesting question. No, like, so my blindness is not complete. It's not 100%. It's probably about maybe now 90% vision loss. But having said that, it was a little better when I was younger. So yeah, I do definitely have an idea of, like, if you say to me, okay, well, this is, I don't know, this is scarlet, and this is red,
Mm.
and this is, I don't know, orange, then I can have a picture of each of those different things in my brain. So, or, this is light blue, this is dark blue, this is royal blue, this is navy. Like, to me, I would
Mhm.
have a different picture of each of those things, even though, you know, it's not like just calling it blue.
Okay. Okay. So because you can like identify that and distinguish it in your mind, do you find that those colors relate to an emotion?
Yeah, quite often, and sometimes I don't even necessarily know what that is. Um,
Mm,
and so, it might be just, and sometimes it's just even like it might be light and dark kind of thing. So, someone might have a dark spot, or a spot
mhm.
where the energy seems to just be lower, and it's not necessarily a color as such. So I wouldn't say, "Oh, well, you've got black energy." It's just a darker shade of whatever else is going on. Like it's got that feeling of being heavier and darker rather than it actually being a color as such, so even sometimes.
Yeah, I would get, and I still do. I'm a Reiki Master teacher too, so I do like see static. I
Mm.
call it static. Like,
That's interesting,
um,
yeah.
it's like a black and white fuzz
Mm.
when I'm working on. In my mind, I can see it.
Yeah.
Not
So kind of like what the TV used to look like when it couldn't pick up the channels.
yes, exactly
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Um, do you have any stories about helping people with Reiki?
Um There was a girl who I, treated many years ago, actually, and, I don't know what the final outcome was eventually, because I kind of lost contact with her a little bit, but she was coming to me for treatments because her and her partner were having significant issues falling pregnant,
Mm,
and I did some treatments on her, and yeah, like they did actually end up conceiving, not too long after the Reiki treatments happened. And so, um and it was interesting that a name came through to me when
mm.
I was doing the Reiki treatments, and I said to her, I said, "Oh, I don't know what this means, but blah blah." And she said, she said, "In fact, actually, that's my grandmother's name, and if we were going to have a girl baby, that's what it was going to be called." So I don't know what
How
happened in the end, whether they had a girl baby or a boy baby, and I mean, gosh, that baby would be, nearly an adult by now. But yeah, so I'm not quite sure how it all ended up. And and that's just life, yeah. It's one of those things that people cross your path, and sometimes you know what the end of the story looks like, and sometimes you don't, but you just do whatever you can in that moment. And I influenced that person's life, they influenced mine, and then we parted ways.
yeah, we always get a gift out of
Mm,
when we're doing Reiki or
mm.
just in life in general. But I've seen it more in treating clients. It's like I learned something out of it.
Mm.
So
And
it's
that's life, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I mean, every experience is an opportunity to learn. And if you don't learn something, then I think you're doing something wrong. Like, you need to go back and have another look and work out, what do I learn from this? I think, we really do need to be really mindful of not just living life and going la 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 la, and not taking anything new. I think, we've all been given opportunities every moment in life to learn something.
absolutely. So with that being said, we're nearing the end here, and I want to know if well, you're going to tell people what's your message that you want people to know.
My message. Um, be grateful for the things that you have. Be kind to yourself and other people around you. And know that whatever challenges that you are faced with in life, you do have the strength to get through them. And you will continue your journey with the knowledge that you've passed that experience and hopefully learnt something from it.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate you being with us. Well, it's your afternoon there. Thank you for being with us during your afternoon. I want to send people to FionaDemark.com.au. That's FionaDemark.com.au. And by the way, Fiona does offer some free consultations on her services. So if you'd like to reach out to her through her website, please do. And also check out my YouTube channel and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss an episode. And also check out zenbuzzies.com as well as whatthebleep.xyz. Thank you for watching and listening tonight. Have a fabulous evening.
Thank you.